Howdy folks, and welcome back for yet another Heads episode. One of the most common questions we get here at Moonshine Distiller is how do I assemble my new still? The first thing you're going to want to do is take the long vertical piece, and that's the bottom of your still tower. On the inside, I don't know if you can see through the cameras, but there's 3 little pins in there. You want to make sure those are on the bottom. You're going to take one of your gaskets, put it in place on the ferrule, and place the tower right on top. Then you can take one of your clamps, wrap it around the still, and screw down this adjustment part to clamp it tight. Once you have that in place, it's time to place the packing in your column. You can actually pack it several different ways, but we would recommend starting with this method and making adjustments that suit your taste. First, take one roll of copper mesh that is just about the diameter of the inside of the tube and slide it down. The pin should keep it in place, and from there you can pour the raschig rings in on top. Generally with the 3-inch columns, if you have one roll of copper mesh on the bottom, it's going to take you just under 2 liters to fill it to the top of this bottom section of the column. At that point, you want to take your perforated plate and set it in place right on top of the raschig rings. This will help distribute the reflux evenly as it works its way back down the column. Next, you want to take a second roll of copper mesh and put it in place just under the reflux condenser on the top part of the tower. This serves 2 purposes. One, it provides additional copper surface area for your sulfides to react with, and 2, it actually helps conduct the heat, so it makes this condenser slightly more efficient. Next, you'll take the next gasket and put it in place on top of this piece of the tower. Place the top part of the tower on top of that, and again, clamp it shut. You can do this with only one person, but for the first couple times, it does often help if you have someone around to help you out. So now it's time to hook up the cooling water supply hoses. If you bought our hose connector kit, it should have come with 3 hoses. One that has no connectors on each end, and 2 that have garden hose connectors on one end. You're going to take the piece with the female garden hose connector and attach it to the bottom nipple on the final product condenser. The next thing you want to do is take the hose that has no connectors on it and run it from the top of your final product condenser to the bottom of the reflux condenser, but don't forget to put on 2 hose clamps first. Lastly, you're going to take the hose with the male hose connector and put it to the top of your reflux condenser. The last thing you want to do is take all the hose clamps and tighten them firmly into place. The last thing you'll want to do is attach the thermometer. One thing you'll need to do before installing the thermometer is wrap it with some Teflon tape. All you should need is a couple wraps around the threads, and that will help seal the still completely. Last, screw the thermometer into the threaded fitting at the top of the still tower. You don't need to crank it down completely, but make sure it's firmly seated. And there you have it. Your new still should be ready to run, assuming you have a mash ready for it. As usual, if you have any questions, please let us know, and thanks for tuning in.